Hello TransByDef, my name is Morgan and this week's topic is transitioning in finances. So I'm going to go over some of my expenses for transitioning, and this is going to take into account two major considerations. One, that I'm a trans woman, trans men, and non-binary is going to have much different expenses than me, and that I don't have any kind of trans-inclusive health benefits, because if you do, then the expenses are going to be much lower. Now, I'd love to start off by saying that money doesn't matter, but unfortunately it does. So your transition is going to be affected by three things. One is the age at which you transition. The second is your genetics. And the third is how much money you have to throw at it. And we can divide costs into about 5 different areas. The first being your presentation. Now, by presentation, I mean your wardrobe, your cosmetics, your jewelry. Obviously, before you transition, you were still buying clothes, but you're going to find that your expenses are going to at least double now. Everything is more expensive. You're going to want a lot more of everything. You know, I've went from 1 pair of shoes to 9, and I get no shortage of little comments about that. So the biggest thing there with the presentation is that there's a high startup cost. If you were a cis girl growing up, then you would have had many years in order to build a wardrobe, to build your cosmetics collection, and to figure out what kind of cosmetics or jewelry is going to work for you. But you're going to be doing this in a matter of months or weeks. Obviously, if you've got someone to help you along, you're going to cut the expenses considerably because you can kind of hone in on what's going to work for you much quicker than if you're experimenting on your own. But you're going to have to replace your entire wardrobe. And your wardrobe's going to get larger, and everything's going to be more expensive in there. And you're going to have to get a whole ton of cosmetics. Also, toiletries are going to be more expensive. Once I started HRT, then I found that my skin went from oily to dry, so I now have to invest in lotions, and 2-for-1 hair conditioner shampoo doesn't work for me anymore. Now, I don't have to actually buy deodorant, but I still do so just out of old habits. Now, besides transitioning, the next big expense is going to be HRT. Now, you've got 2 ways to do HRT. The first is do it yourself, self-medicate, and hopefully self-test. And the second way is to actually go through your physician or an endocrinologist to do so. Now, both have some advantages. Now, if you do it yourself, you're going to avoid a lot of upstart expenses. For instance, my endocrinologist required $400 as a new patient fee. Also, since my endocrinologist doesn't do it by informed consent, I had to go through a gender therapist first. So that was 4 months of about $80 an hour sessions, weekly sessions, and before I could even start. But I did it both ways. I actually started hormones, do-it-yourself first. I started that in January of last year, and then I didn't actually start prescription hormones until about April of last year. So I had several months of doing it yourself before I did the normal way. With the do-it-yourself, you have the advantage of being able to start off right off the bat, but it is not as safe. And you have to worry about customs. At any point, customs can delay your shipment or even seize them. Plus, if you've got non-prescribed medication on you and you're out and about and a cop stops you, well, then you have to worry about that. They're not controlled substances, but you can still get a lot of grief for it, especially since we're already considered suspicious people merely by existing. Now, HRT for me, now that I have prescriptions, the cost is about $40 a month. Now I go through Walmart and they have some of the best prices for if you don't have health insurance. One little trick is that you want to get your endocrinologist to prescribe your spironolactone in 25 milligram dosages. Although you'll be taking 4 times as many pills, your actual cost of the prescription is going to be in half because Walmart actually has that under their cheap $4 program, while the 100 milligrams aren't covered. I do plan on going into medroxyprogesterone, so my HRT cost is going to go up by about $10 a month starting next month. Now, if you do it yourself, you're going to pay more for hormones, provided you don't go through one of the cheaper Indian-based companies, which I don't do that. It's not safe. The prescriptions you get are not reliable. They don't have reliable delivery. It's just a terrible way to go. If you're going to do it, New Zealand-based companies are usually your best option. They're more expensive, but there's more consistency with what you'll get. Now, the hormones are going to cost more, but whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're going through an endocrinologist, once you get through those initial startup fees for the endocrinologist or your primary, and any kind of gender therapy you had to have first, the cost was going to be about the same, because although my prescription costs have gone down, I now have to do regular blood tests and I have regular doctor visits. So it works out to about $80 a month for my prescriptions plus tests plus saving for the doctor visit. Excuse me. So, and you're going to pay that the same in hormones if you're doing it yourself. I definitely recommend having them prescribed to you once you can get to doing that. I certainly don't see a problem with a lot of people who do order them overseas for the initial period, but you want to make sure you've got someone who really understands what's going on with your body, and you want to make sure you're doing regular tests. If you do it yourself and you don't do tests, you can save money, but that's just dumb. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is going to be hair removal. And this deserves its own little category, because this can be very expensive. I do electrolysis. I've been going through electrolysis for a little over a year now, and I've mostly got to the point where they clear the face the entire time, and I'm probably looking about another year of doing so before I don't have to go back. I get a discount on my sessions. My sessions are about $60 an hour, and I go weekly. And you have to go weekly, because otherwise you're giving too much time for the hair follicles to kind of heal between. So it's not just cutting the time in half by going weekly instead of bi-weekly. It's doing a tremendous much more effectiveness, because otherwise you just don't get too much of the stuff heals, and then you lose a lot of what was just done. There's also the option of laser. I haven't done laser because I wanted to throw money at something that was going to be permanent rather than permanent reduction. I definitely look forward to doing laser further down the road, probably when I stop with electrolysis, or I don't have to go quite as often, so I have a little bit more money freed up. But when you figure the cost that I pay in electrolysis, divided on a monthly basis, it's about $240, but since there's really 13 sets of 4 weeks, it'd make it $260. And you can spend a lot more on that. Electrolysis costs thousands per session, depending on how much you're going to hit at a time. And it takes several sessions before you see effectiveness. Now, the fourth area is going to be surgeries. This is something that is just beyond my financial ability to do at the moment, so it's not even something that has gone beyond the idea of what I'd like to do, rather than actually planning for it. Surgeries are expensive. SRS, GRS, gender confirmation surgery, whatever term you want to use for it, that's going to run you around $20,000 once everything's said and done. Could be a little bit more, especially if you have to have skin grafts, or a little bit less if you don't have like a full surgery done. But the $20,000 mark is a good mile point for it. Other options would be norcorectomy. That one's around $4,000, and it can be a little bit more if you're going to try to prevent scar tissue. Then there's top surgery, breast augmentation, which is going to be another $4,000. Sometimes you can get a little bit cheaper, but you do get what you pay for. Then there's a ton of FFS and just other cosmetic surgeries that you'll want to do now. And this can actually cost 2 to 3 times as much as what you're going to pay for the SRS. So when it comes to surgeries, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and it's something that as soon as you can, you need to start saving for, because these are big expenses, and unless you're rich, this is something you're just going to have to set aside money and do it on a regular basis so that you can accomplish what you want to down the road. And then the final category is miscellaneous stuff. For instance, I just finished doing my name change. When I finished all the expenses for that, it's cost me about $600, which if you divide on a monthly basis, that's about $50. There's voice training if you go that route. If you continue to see a psychiatrist past the point of where you get your letter of recommendation for feminization treatment, there's going to be an expense. Also, you might be doing gym memberships now. You might be doing diet foods. And all these are going to be new expenses because you're transitioning. And a lot of these expenses, just like presentation, occur because you now care about what you look like. Before, you had a body that wasn't yours. So if didn't look the best, it really didn't matter. Now you care, and you've had a lot of years of hiding within yourself, so you kind of want to show off to a degree. You kind of want to experience all those things that you didn't have a chance to for how many ever years that you waited until you transitioned. For me, that was quite a few years, so I definitely like to take care of myself, and I take pride in my appearance. So there's an expense to that. So when everything calculates together, I find that I pay at minimum an extra $500 a month for all the transition-related expenses, and that's if I kind of keep my budget tight. I'm probably 600 to 650 is a more realistic number that I spend, and I really need to double that amount. I need to put that another $650 aside every month in order to get surgeries that I'm looking forward to down the road. At the moment, that's not possible because one of the problems with money while you transition is that employment is harder. Even though my job was safe because there is anti-discrimination laws, anti-discrimination policies for my store, that doesn't mean that getting promotion is going to be any easier, and it's going to be a lot harder. I know for certain I've lost one promotion because I was trans. When I came into the audition, the interview room, and my name didn't match my appearance, two of the people just stopped paying attention. So it was pretty apparent that I wasn't going to get that one. And it's going to be harder to earn money. So you really have to learn to save, and really have to learn to plan for the future. Now there are a few things that are free that you can actually do to help your presentation, and that's important to know too. Dieting is a big thing. That's just a matter of willpower, and you'll find that when you start to transition, you get a lot of willpower. Along with diet comes exercise. Also, taking care of your eyebrows, your nails, your hair. These things can be done free, or you can pay more for it. I mean, I did have acrylics for a little bit, but I got out of that. So beyond that, work on your voice, because that is probably the one thing that is going to be your biggest tell. It's mine. Once you've been on an HRT for a year or so, and that's you can practice that every day free, and that's 50% of your ability to pass. So I recommend focus on find your priorities. HRT is a priority for me. Hair removal is a priority for me. And then work on what you can do inexpensive or free, such as voice. And focus on those and save for what's going to come down the road. And that way you will be able to transition with what money you have. You'll just have to find a way to do it. And that's kind of the theme song for us who are transgender is you just have to find a way, and we can. So we all can do it. You can do it if that's the direction you want to go. So don't let the numbers scare you. If it's what you want, it's worth every penny. So I hope to see you next week on TransByDef. Again, this is Morgan Fay, and have a good day.